Hey everybody, this is Jason, and I am Jason the PT. And today we're talking about core stability. There's some very big misconceptions about what core stability actually is. Patients tell me all the time that they come in and they have to strengthen their core. They have to, work on strengthening those muscles and getting them, more endurance. And unfortunately, that's not necessarily true. If they're walking into the clinic standing completely upright, then they possess all the strength that they really need for what they're basically doing, especially if the problem is like walking. So we're taking one thing, strength, and we're turning it into something a little bit different, which is stability. Stability is a lot more complex. Stability is the property of a body that when it is disturbed from its equilibrium, its set point, or steady state of motion, for it to return back to that original state. So just like you're seeing me here kneeling on this Bosu, I'm moving around quite a bit. But my body is able to detect where it is in space and then correct for that. And then to make it useful, it does it over some time. So it's more than just strength. It's more than just being able to contract a muscle. It's feeling, it's creating a plan, then having some of the strength to pull it off. But as you can see, I'm not working terribly hard from a strengthening standpoint. What stability really does for the body is it's protective, okay? If I'm here, I'm using my muscles to keep myself upright. If I'm unstable and I'm doing this and I'm all over the place, I'm beating up on joints, ligaments, and discs, the stuff that breaks and doesn't like to heal very well. So it is more than just, like I said, strengthening. So a lot of the exercises people are doing for core stability are not actually getting everything out of that particular exercise. People say, well, I'm doing planks. And I'm like, great, that means you can contract a muscle and you can hold it, okay? And that gives you some good endurance, and endurance is useful. But if I were to plank right now on this Bosu, I'm not gonna be able to hold it. I'm gonna fall over. So just being able to contract doesn't keep me upright. Then also the strengthening side of it, doing things that are 3 sets of 10. There's nothing else in the world that is 3 sets of 10 for people. So yes, you get some strength, but again, as you see me on this Bosu, I'm not working hard in terms of strength. I'm working to keep myself upright, but I'm not like really lifting hard. I'm not really exerting myself, okay? So those exercises that are 3 sets of 10, they might get you some ability to control the muscle a little bit, but it doesn't give you that reflexivity, that protective response that really is the hallmark of core stabilization. So if you're doing exercises and you're not a little bit wobbly, we're kind of missing the mark here. We're not getting everything out of that exercise that we possibly can. Stability is about control. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys some of my favorite exercises for core stabilization. Okay, first exercise is going to be the kneeling Bosu. You guys saw me doing this at the intro. So you can start here, just practice, getting stable, getting comfortable. Once you started mastering it and you're not falling over and you're not finding yourself losing positional sense, you can close your eyes. Closing your eyes actually makes it a little bit harder because you take your eyes away from it. And now you really kind of have to feel, and you can see I'm working considerably harder with eyes closed. So eyes closed definitely is a good way to kind of make it a little more challenging. Just make sure you have like a bench or a wall or something like that, because you don't want to fall down and smack your face. The other thing you can do is grab a ball. This one's weighted. You can do this one, keeping your eyes on the ball, and rotate. So now you're getting a little more dynamic stability, moving around, keeping your eyes on the ball. So it forces your muscles to work a little bit harder. So that's a good, nice little Bosu progression. You can do this in sets of 60 seconds or even longer if you'd like, whatever works best for you. Okay, here's another nice core stabilization exercise that you could do on the kneeling Bosu. What you do is you just grab a TheraBand or something rubbery that you can kind of hang on to. Grip it however you like. Get a little tension on it because this thing's going to want to pull you. Pull your toes up off the ground. And then from here, you can do kind of a pale-off press, where as you extend those arms, it's going to increase the amount of stress on those muscles. So just keeping those hands straight out, don't let it pull you in, resist it. You could do this one in sets of 10 because it's Not necessarily, there's a time element to this because you're constantly working throughout the exercise. So it's not like it's on and off. You can work here and then also do a little bit of a rotation if you want while you're balancing. So I'm turning to my left. So you can do a couple sets just like that. And that's another great exercise for stabilization while emphasizing certain muscles. Okay, here's another nice exercise. You can flip it around. This one actually will work the abdominal muscles a little bit. And I got a band in the opposite hand. And what I'm going to do here, while I'm balancing, toes up off the ground, is punch. So you have to engage those abdominal muscles because it wants to pull you back a little bit. It also wants to pull you kind of back and to the right. So keeping those toes up off the ground kind of forces you to work around that rotation axis, but also give your abs a little bit more work. And I should note with all these Bosu exercises, don't sit on your spine. People have a tendency to find stability. So what they do is they kind of push their belly forward and they kind of hunch down. And you're creating stability by kind of sitting on the spine, but it's not really that reflexive. You want to be upright, belly muscles engaged, and then kind of punching around. And conversely, you can flip this around. So you're facing back towards it here. And you can do rows with a little bit of a rotation. Just pulling here and kind of rotating back, belly muscles engaged while you're balancing. Okay, I'm going to give you guys some kind of Bosu bridging exercises. I like doing these on the Bosu because the Bosu gives you a little bit to work against. So I'm going to give you a series of exercises that you can do here on the Bosu. Number one, what you can do is just a straight Bosu bridge, coming up and down, slow and controlled. So think 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Because you want to work the control. If you start blasting through things, momentum ends up doing all the work and you're not actually controlling. The idea here is to actually control and get those muscles to kind of feel where they are in space, as well as be able to kind of work all the way through that range of motion. So it's important to get a nice, slow kind of control out and then back. Another one I like, what you do is you just come up into a bridge, making sure shoulder, hip, and knee are all in the same line. And I do a shimmy. So I'm going to push this leg long. Okay, I'm going to push that knee down, and it's going to feel like my pelvis kind of comes off to the side with a little bit of a rock. So it's like pushing that leg longer, like you're reaching for something with the knee, and then reaching with the opposite side. So you're going to feel your pelvis kind of coming back and forth, almost like a swishing motion. And that's a nice little way to kind of learn control of those lower abdominal muscles. And again, you can do these in sets of 5, like one side and then the other counts as 1. Do like 5 sets of 5, 3 sets of 10, because you're working all the way through this. So while I said before, 3 sets of 10 is mostly strengthening, there's a time and endurance and control aspect to it. So you can do the shimmy. You can also do a rotation. You can kind of keep those belly muscles engaged. And then I'm literally just dropping, let's say we'll start on my left, I'm just dropping that butt cheek kind of down into the center line and then coming back. So kind of shimmies one, not really a shimmy, but a rotation of that pelvis back and forth. So you're learning, you're getting those muscle stabilizers in there. And then there's the old favorite, coming up, belly muscles in and kicking. Just destabilizing yourself and forcing those muscles to try to hold you up. And the idea is if you were to have a bar kind of right across your pelvis here, you wouldn't want that bar rocking up and down. You want to keep that bar nice and straight and then kick and control. You can also do a kind of a kick and a lift around. So you're getting a bit more of that rotation on both sides. So those are good Bosu kind of on your back stabilization exercises. Okay, if you don't have a Bosu, I should mention there's also some standing versions of these exercises. So if you were to do, if you don't have a Bosu, which I highly recommend, and I'm actually going to put a link down in the comments to where you can actually get a Bosu. I think they're about 120 bucks, totally worth it, especially if you're dealing with back pain. But there are some standing versions where you can kind of make yourself a little wobbly and using some TheraBands. So you can do standing on one leg. These are a little bit long, but you can actually stand on one leg and then kind of rotate this way, kind of like I was doing before, okay? Rotating and switching legs, obviously, so you get both legs. What's nice about actually when you have the legs down, you can get a little more glute activation because you can push your right leg longer. Notice, like I was doing with the shimmy before, if I push that right leg longer, I kind of lift up the hip, so I get a little more of that hip action on that right side. So while holding that, you can do a rotation on the opposite side. You can do both hands. Conversely, you can do the same thing on the standing on the opposite side. What I would say is put the right leg down, left leg up, and then you're going to give yourself that hip hike, and then you can do punches, kind of bringing it across the body here. So you're getting those abdominal muscles, and you're still going to be a little bit wobbly, but it's good because it's going to force you to kind of work that kind of stabilization. There's another exercise to do. If you don't have an actual Bosu, you can get 2 TheraBands. These are crossover cables. Love them. They attach real easy to just about anything. I'll put that link down as well in the comments. But what I have people do are tipping birds, kind of with a pull, kind of coming through. And you really want to drive that leg through when you do this, okay? So here, keeping some tension on, and then kind of pulling all the way through. Now, don't lean back. Everybody wants to do this. This is just counterbalancing. Okay, if you're just leaning back, you're just counterbalancing. You want to be here, and then bring it all in. And you can do that again in sets of 10, and you can rotate your feet. If you want to do 10, 10, 10, 10, that works as well. Okay, here's one for the abdominal muscles. And what I'm doing here is I'm actually laying down on a foam roller under my head. Make sure you have your head supported, and down right down by my butt here. So what you can do is you can attach a TheraBand, 2 TheraBands to like a door or something like that. And then what you do is you grab your TheraBands and you pull them, engaging those abdominal muscles. So this forces you to use your abdominal muscles a little bit more. And what you do is you hold that TheraBand there, okay, and then you march, because this is going to make you wobbly. So not only are you getting a little bit of that motor control, you're also going to get the movement of the foam roller that's going to force your muscles to kind of respond to something and not just clench. So that's a good way to work the stability of those abdominal muscles. And that's pretty straightforward, and almost everybody has a foam roller, and the TheraBands are super cheap. So that's a great exercise. Okay, for the next exercise, I'm going to show you guys a bird dog. And this is a common one. It's on a million videos. It's all over the place. But there's some subtle points I really like teaching to my patients so they get the most out of the actual exercise. So I'm going to do this without a Bosu or a ball. I'm just putting this here for my knees because I'm getting old. So what I'm going to do is you get into a position where you're on all fours. And you want to engage the abdominal muscles. You want to keep a nice neutral spine. You don't want to be sagging, and you don't want to be kind of all the way up in this position. You want to be in that nice kind of neutral position right here. And then what you do, keeping that nice neutral spine, take your right hand and your left leg, and you're going to kick them out straight and balancing. And then you can alternate. And usually people are a little worse one side versus another. But the idea is to keep a nice neutral spine. You don't want to be moving all over the place. And the other big mistake I see people doing is they're trying to create stability by using the joints. So what they'll do is as they get to this point, they drop their belly in. This creates some stability because you're just going to jam those joints down. But if you're really looking for actual spinal stability and keeping those muscles engaged, you got to keep the spine in that neutral position. So imagine there's a ball kind of at the small of your back here. And you want to balance that out without dropping the belly in. And again, you can do that in sets of 20. Again, control. Another one that people do for spinal mobility can also be a really good localization exercise is cat and camel, but go slow, okay? So you kind of feel your way kind of all the way through the spine. So if you're trying to learn how to feel, kind of come all the way up, but go nice and slow. Think 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, kind of all the way down.
and then back up. But by going slow, you're forced to work all the way through it. You're not just jamming up and then jamming down because nothing happens in the middle. But this is where all the magic happens. So staying here, you'll even may find a couple segments. So as you're going up and down, you may feel a couple segments that you kind of like jog through. All of a sudden, the muscles just kind of shake through that range. And you can play with that a little bit. You can find where, let's say I'm shaking kind of like right here, I kind of feel a little bit. You can work just that segment. So you're regaining the motor control in that segment. And that's an excellent exercise to at least learn a little bit of control. So you can do those things in conjunction with one another.
All right, everybody, I hope you enjoyed those exercises. I think by doing these types of exercises, especially when you're talking about pathology and pain and trying to stabilize the spine, you're going to get a lot more from these exercises than just doing lifting and strengthening. This is what your body does. This is what you do when you walk around. This is what these muscles are made for. So if you're talking about spinal stability, you got to get a little wobbly with it. You got to learn that control. You got to learn that reflexivity. I'm going to leave you with this final thought because it's an interesting point. Things can tune and detune. And one of the things that I'm finding with people, especially when they're sitting for long periods of time, that's detuning. You're not doing this kind of stuff. You're not keeping your brain sharp. There's programs up here, all sorts of motor programs of how you do certain things. Grabbing a doorknob, swinging a golf stick, a golf club. The point is that those programs can tune and detune whether or not you use them. And how sharp, how responsive your neurological system is about how much you actually challenge it, how much you use it, how much you maintain it. So if you're sitting for long periods of time in front of computers, you're not doing this stuff, okay? So that can detune, and I think it's an important thing to find, because if you're sitting and just going and lifting weights, but you're not doing this stuff, you're leaving yourself in a much more vulnerable position, and you're not attacking a spinal problem where it actually exists, and that is this kind of stuff. So definitely want to incorporate some of these things into your routine. I'm Jason the PT, and I'll see you to the next episode.